What's up, guys? My name is Andre. I'm the CEO of edgeful.com, and I have the legendary Emperador Maximiliano here. We're going to be talking about trading. We're going to be talking about his story, how he got into trading, how he uses Edgeful, et cetera, et cetera. How are you, man? It's good to have you.
I, I'm great. It's great to be here, Andre. I always enjoy talking to you
Yeah.
and talking trading. I mean, you can get me talking about anything, but
Yeah.
trading, talking to you, a couple traders talking back and forth, it's always a great time.
Yeah. No, for sure. Just to kind of kick things off, can you tell me? I don't actually think I know the story. How did you get into trading?
Well, I always had the kind of like I came from the real estate world. I worked at a bank at first, got into the real estate world, family business type of stuff, and it get to the point where I got all of that kind of going where I wanted it to, and I was like, I was wasting a lot of time. Honestly, I would doom scroll. I'd be watching, dumb YouTube videos or clips or whatever on social media, and my first son was born in 2020. And around that time, that fatherly instinct kind of kicks in, and I kind of need to start thinking about the future a little bit more. So maybe I got a little bit of a late start compared to some people, as far as hey, let's focus on something bigger, more long term.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I need to start getting into investing. Well, so I started checking things out and kind of focusing on that, realizing how much time I was wasting every day. I said, hey, let's put that towards something that is more constructive, right? Maybe something that can benefit me. And so I started, trying to learn about investing, and then this was going into the time where we all know the GameStop. That of course this was late COVID time, 2020 going into 2021, and then the GameStop thing happened, and I was watching people day trade, and that was kind of a new concept to me. I had learned about investing. I knew you could, buy shares in companies, things like that, but I really didn't know a whole lot about any of the mechanics of actually trading. And so that piqued my interest. And then I went through the whole, I think a lot of new traders, especially in this time, went through this whole deal of, the day trading thing. And then it was like, okay, well, let's learn, okay, penny stocks, biotechs, that kind of stuff. And then it was like, then I started finding out about options. I was like, oh, the options, this is cool. And like the worst possible thing happened when I got into options. I had like 1,000% play happen pretty quickly. Now, I don't even know if I've replicated that since. That was the worst possible thing that could actually happen, because I was so new. I mean,
Yeah.
and I was figuring things out on my own instead of like getting around other people and really learning and taking an education. I was just, what does this do? What is it like? And I'm just engulfing content everywhere. And I
Yeah.
really didn't have a good filter, didn't know where I was going with it. And so I started on the journey very, I don't know. I was a lost person on this path to becoming a successful and profitable trader.
Yeah.
That's the start.
I When you said it was the worst thing that ever happened to you, immediately I was like, yeah. And anyone who's new would never understand why that is, but it just sets like the worst expectation of what reality is like. Usually, actually, you see other people with 1,000% plays, and then you're like, I want to do that. And you start to like, all the rules go out the window, everything goes out the window. And you start to build bad habits looking for those grand slams. And it's funny that you said that that was the worst thing, because at least for me, I've never had 1,000% options play. I'll say that because especially when I started, one of the things was I kept taking profits too early. That was like one of my big problems. But the anyone who's new will be like, what do you mean that was the worst thing? You just made so much money. That must have been awesome for you. But in reality, like, that sets it gives you a bad
Absolutely.
little like drip of something that you want to keep chasing, which is like obviously doesn't set up all the time. Now it can on certain days, like whether today it just continues to trend up or down, but like usually it's not going to
It's
happen.
just unreasonable expectations,
Yeah.
right? Because it's not a common thing to happen. And beyond that, it was like anytime you get some early success, you get overconfident too,
Yeah.
right? I think that's true in almost any walk of life. And so
Yeah.
that's where I ran into the okay, maybe I'm ready to size up a little bit, right? Boom, blown account. But
Yeah, of
it didn't
course.
take long. Reload the account. Okay, let's try to figure some things out a little bit
Yeah.
further. Let's start learning how to do some charting and stuff. Let's get a little bit better at that. Let's learn about options. How do they move? What do they actually do? So then I started just trying to become a student, right? And I'm trying to learn stuff, but I'm still kind of on my own. And I'm working full time in an office during a crazy real estate boom at the time. If
Yeah.
anybody remembers, interest rates were at nothing, and so
Yeah.
everyone in the world's refinancing and buying, and property values are so. Not only was I trying to learn to trade, but I would be taking trades, and I'd have to run and leave. I couldn't monitor them,
Yeah.
and I had no system whatsoever. And then I got to the point where I could find winners, but I had no idea how to not find losers, and I had no idea how to manage a trade. I didn't, and so I got to where I was just like, staying above water. I'd go for good for a little bit, and then I'd blow an account again, and then okay, we'll reset.
Yeah.
Let's try to nail down something a little bit further. And once you run your head into that wall enough times, you realize, hey, I've got to really buckle down and learn what I'm doing here, slow down, and start to figure some stuff out. And then about the same time, yeah, I had a bunch of life changes and stuff going on. Finally got to where I was able to work remotely and sit in front of a desk all day. So that helped some. But if anything, what it was is I finally got tired of just trying to do it on my own. Kind of got over the ego part of things. Like,
Yeah.
why am I trying to just learn this? Let me find smart people and just stay around those people and learn what they're doing, and build a strong foundation. Stop swinging for the fences.
Yeah.
And then I kind of got into the futures at that point. Around that same time, got introduced into futures.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, I'm leaving all the options stuff, the day trading. I'm leaving that stuff on the side. I'm going to fully learn futures. I'm going to fully build out a system that I can replicate
Yeah.
and do something consistently, right? So that was the progression that finally kind of got me close to consistent profitability.
Yeah, and before you got there, so while you were still trading options, were you just trying to chase a move? Like, were you using an orb strategy that you heard of? Were you using a gap fill, or were you just kind of like, oh, price is continuing up, like I'm going to buy calls and hope it goes higher?
Yeah, so I did a lot of breakout trading. I would try to trade breakouts, which fell probably more times than they work out. And that, especially with options, because that at the breakout is when that IV go expands, and so
Yeah.
you're already late to the game.
Yeah.
But I was, mostly looking at levels and trend lines. That was the kind of the main thing I was doing, and I would do good for a while, and then I would get overconfident, where I make a mistake. I would oversize. Would be usually the culprit was oversizing
Yeah.
and trying to size up too quick. And then also was, I got to where I would get overconfident, I'd take a trade, and then I'd get pulled away. I'd go run an errand or something, and I wouldn't set a stop loss. I wouldn't really have like, a good, or if I did, once I started setting stop losses, though, I'd set a tight stop loss because I knew I had to walk away, and I'd come
Yeah.
back just to see that get wicked out and be right.
Of
You know,
course.
that was frustrating. Of course, that
Of
happens a lot
course.
too. And so that was kind of the thing with options. It was and it really wasn't like options weren't the issue. I was the issue,
Yeah.
because I didn't have any type of system, and honestly, I had no reasonable expectations. So like when if a level worked, I would try to take a trade to the next level, and I would almost get into that casino mindset a little bit of like, once the number's going up, I don't want to sell it. But as the number's going down and it's getting red, well, hey, maybe it can come back. Like,
Yeah.
I really struggled with the psychology side of things. I think anybody can learn the technical analysis,
Yeah.
to a successful point, right? Whether it's levels, trend lines, whether you use EMAs, whether you use orb strategies, whatever
Yeah.
it is. I think most people can learn that. The psychology thing, and the having some type of reasonable expectations of where the trade can go, I think was kind of the next step. So controlling psychology and having some type of roadmap was really what started to turn the corner for me.
Yeah.
I would say from year 2 into year 3, starting year 3 of trading.
Yeah. And when you realized, you were like, okay, I can't keep winging it. I have this understanding that I need to do something. I need to build some sort of system. I need to build something that I want to replicate. Was it, I want to surround myself with smart people that I respect, that are successful in doing what I want to do? Or did you like refer to YouTube? Like, how did you determine, number one, who to go to, but also like what resources to look at in order to start that process?
Right. So obviously, there's a lot of there's a lot of people out there that you can blindly follow, and that's probably the worst thing you can do.
Yeah.
And I think I'm thankful that I kind of ran into that really early and kind of got a taste of like, okay, not everything you see on the internet is real, right? So
Yeah.
I got some of that early, and then yeah, so I started like on X, right? We have the spaces and stuff. So I kind of like I started listening to those guys, and then I started kind of getting in around them. Some of them ended up inviting me into their Discord rooms, or I signed up for a couple. And I was like, okay, let me get kind of more down to earth and see what these people's strategies are, and see what works for me, and also what doesn't work for me. What
Yeah.
what what type of trader am I, and what type of trader am I not? And I think that was kind of a big piece of it. And yeah, I mean, I started getting into YouTube videos. I started just digging into strategies, right? I just consuming as much as I could and saying, okay, now that I've been learning this stuff, then I started getting on the charts with it and seeing how can I execute on this, like how, because then that becomes the next challenge, right?
Yeah.
I've learned how to do this, but my execution sucks.
Yeah.
Like that was the next hurdle. So it's like it really is. And I think anybody watching this, I hope they take away this point, is there's no like, okay, here's level one, here's level two, and then level three, you're there. Honestly, it's like little stair steps the whole way through,
Yeah.
as you're working your way up. And anytime you try to skip a stair or two is when you're going to fall back down. And
Yeah.
I think that's the perfect like illustration of what trading your trading journey should be, and what a lot of people mess up on.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more that that expectation and trying to take shortcuts is extremely dangerous for new traders. And when you set, and this is from my experience at least, like typically I feel like traders are they're ambitious, high achieving people. As a personality trait, I feel like that's pretty universal. But what I notice is that for me at least, I set such an unrealistic time frame on like, okay, in the next 6 months, I want to be making X amount of money. And then if that doesn't happen, you start to be like, well, my timeline's coming up, and you start to force trades, and then like you start to get in your head, you don't want to lose more money. You start to say, okay, I'm going to lock in this green day, when in reality it just continues further. And I think that what you mentioned about like the small stair steps is like, okay, now I have to tackle this, and then I have to tackle this, and then like you're not going to know every single step before it comes out. But the
Sure.
way that I did it at least was I thought I knew everything, and then as I actually started doing it, I realized, okay, now I need to focus on this piece, and I need to focus on this piece, and like I noticed, okay, I'm getting stopped out, and it's going to my favor every time. Widen your stops, and actually being okay in that drawdown, and et cetera. Like, and then even sizing up is always is a like mostly psychological, because what's beautiful about trading is that it scales infinite. I mean, like infinitely.
Right.
And what you can do is like if you're trading, if you can make $100 a day consistently, that means that you can make $1,000 a day consistently. And if you can make $1,000 a day consistently, you can make $5,000 a day consistently. But if you can't make $100 a day consistently, there is no way that using more size is going to get you to $5,000. It's just not
No,
going to happen.
that is a very common myth. Like, oh well, I have a small account, so if I had $10,000, or if I had $50,000 in my account, I could I could be success. The size of your account's not the problem. The
Yeah,
the
yeah,
consistency is
the
definitely the
consistency.
problem. That's a very good point.
Yeah. And one of the pieces that I found was that for me at least, and it was the struggle of not trusting what I was doing. And I'm curious what for you what, and mostly because I didn't know what the actual stats were. And I'm curious, like for you, when you were starting and you were actually trying to build this repeatable system, like was one of your problems not being able to hold on to your targets because you just set a level, or like this was a set of a level of resistance yesterday, therefore I'm going to target that, or sticking to your stop loss because your trade, like rather than it being a dollar loss, you're doing it, my stop should be here because that's where my trade idea becomes invalid. Like, and my question is, how did you navigate trading before you had a system?
Yeah, so one of the things that I really struggled with was when does my trade thesis invalidate? When and where? And I would struggle to keep lowering my stop loss. I would have, hey, stop loss should be here. Here's where my risk is.
Yeah.
And it would come down towards that. I'd be like, well, let's just give it a little bit more room. Let's just give it a little bit more room. I ended up taking a big loss for no reason, and I give
Yeah.
back, a few days worth of hard-earned gains, right? So
Yeah.
that was a big thing that I had to overcome on the psychology side of
Yeah.
things. Is accepting a loser. I come from a sports background.
Yeah.
I played every sport that you can imagine. I'm the most competitive person that I've ever met. And I know that a lot of people say that, but I can't even have fun at some family outings because I'm going to try to win everything no matter what.
Yeah.
And I'm going to try to figure out if somebody's able to beat me or do something better than me. I'm going to try to figure out, okay, what are they doing and how can I do whatever they're doing this much better than them?
Yeah.
That's always kind of been, that's how I'm wired. And that
Yeah.
comes from the sports background. And that was to my fault a lot of times in trading because in sports, if you're getting beat, right, if you're down, it's, hey, put your head down and grind harder, work
Yeah.
harder, give more effort, whatever it is. And that works so far against you in this trading world. There's just so many good parallels you can take away from sports, but
What a
the
great
worst
point.
thing you can do when things are going against you is to now size up and try harder, right?
Yeah.
Now jump right back into another trade, try to make back what you just lost. So I struggled with that for a very long time of overcoming that mentality of, okay, well, I'm not going to give up. That never give up.
Yeah.
Sometimes you do in trading. You're like, okay, it's not working out today. I need to reset. I need to
Yeah.
reset that mentality a little bit. And I almost think of it as like, there's a bunch of sports references you could use, but this is
Yeah.
a pretty good one. You ever see like, um, maybe a quarterback, he's thrown a couple interceptions in a row, and you're not going to just throw him back in the game. The coach is going to pull him aside, talk to him a little bit. You're going to try to get him a couple little short passes, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to come out and try to throw that Hail Mary bomb down
Yeah.
on the next play, the next drive. So let's get some confidence built back in this guy. And I think that parallels over to trading very well because I
Yeah.
think that pulls in the idea of, hey, sometimes you can't just, I took a loss, I took two losses. And okay, no, I'm gonna swing big on this third trade. I'm going to get it all back. And that is where you make emotional decisions outside of any type of system or strategy.
100%. If that's something that like people can just instantly learn, that would save people so much money. There is this book, and I forget the name of it now, but it was a trading psychology book, and what the author said was, if you find before you start to tilt, when you get into that revenge mode, if you can find what triggers your tilt typically. So for every time you've tilted, what happened 20 minutes before that to where you are like, I'm tilted now. So like for me,
Yeah.
for example, it's if I set an entry and price comes right into my entry but doesn't get quite there, and then it just goes right into my favor, I found that I am chasing that move. I always say, oh, you try to pinpoint your in my head. I go, you try to pinpoint your entries like you're a sniper or something. Just you should have just entered with a market order at the area in the ballpark of where you wanted to be long. And look, you missed this trade, and then that's where I start to chase. And then every single time I go to chase, I get stopped out. It will. I mean, I think it would probably work like 1 out of 30 times. And I've figured out that if I miss my entry, I have to literally get up and leave my desk for at least 5 minutes, because if not, best believe I'm going to be chasing that trade somehow. If I'm going to like size down or use some like smaller account that I have or whatever else, I'm going to find a way to chase that trade, and that always leads to a terrible day.
Yeah, so there's several examples like that I could use myself, but I want to talk about a little bit of like how you mentioned there like walking away and stuff. So for me, I've got to the point now where a lot of my system is based off of probabilities and risk reward,
Yeah.
which has helped me incredibly. And I know we're going to get into that piece of the conversation a little bit later, but first, I'm at a spot now because I worked on this very hard for a long time. I mean, a year, 2 years of controlling that FOMO, right? Controlling the emotion side of things and not making rash decisions. And I'm at a good spot now.
Yeah.
Just I feel myself so much more comfortable in trades now than I was, because there was a point where I would take trades, and let's say I won 2, 3 trades in a row. Maybe I had 3, 4 green days in a row. I knew a big red day was coming,
Yeah.
and I was just scared to death because I how can I control myself? How can I replicate this? And I was kind of lost because I was like, whoa, I know it's coming. And then sure enough, it would come.
Yeah.
And so I started trying to, okay, how can I do what Andre just said there? How can I identify kind of what's triggering me? And how can I stop myself? Let me tell you some of these things. I took a mouse and took the batteries out one day because I was sitting there. I would hold my mouse and I would hover over the buy or sell button.
Yep.
And there was a couple times I caught myself like I was hovering over the buy button and I was like, no, I don't like it. And then I'm hovering over the sell button. Like I immediately want to go the other direction instead because I don't like this. I don't like long, so I got to go short. Like,
Yeah.
trying to be in a trade all the time. I've clicked the X on the broker and just closed the broker out, so like only my trading views on my screen.
Yeah.
I've tried a lot of things, but taking the batteries out of my mouse, I think was one of the best things
I'm
that
sure.
I tried. I've tried to get up and walk away and stuff. I have trouble walking away from the screens,
Yeah.
but what I can do is I found other ways to control myself and just put little things like I knew there was a couple times I was like, okay, I'm feeling a little tilted. I'm not, and I finally got to the point where like, how can I prevent this? Well, I disconnect the mouse, right? Or
Yeah.
I pushed myself back. I came set back and like away from my desk where I couldn't reach my keyboard. Like just little, funny things like that because I know I had that emotional side of things, that those
100%.
triggers that were trying to draw me into stuff. And I'm not saying everyone has to do this, but everyone finds a way, whether it's some people go make, they go make lunch, right? They go, get a glass of tea or something, go for a walk down the street. I know several traders that do little things like that.
Yeah.
And I started to hear other traders doing that. And I was like, I've got to do something that's different here, whether it's, jump off somewhere else or let's go have a conversation somewhere. Let's go read about something, study something. I don't know, something to get my mind off of trading and get me away from the buy sell button. And that became, that helped me deal with it until I could finally get more control over my emotions.
Yeah. And even as we say this, like I would like listening to myself, listening to you talking about, I have to literally take the battery out of my mouse to not take a trade. Like to someone who maybe is new to trading, they listen to that and they're like, what? Like that sounds crazy to me. But when you're in that moment and you're tilted or you're being greedy or you have that FOMO, everyone has such a different way of dealing with it. But it is absolutely crucial that if like even just pushing away from just something to get you to disconnect even slightly from like risking your account. Because for me, I have noticed that if I don't physically get up, even if I log out of the broker, I'm going to log back into the broker. This has happened so many times. I have to literally physically get up and leave, or else I'm going to find a way to get back into this trade or get back in and chase this move or whatever. And this applies to having a red day or even a green day that you turned red. And then now you're like, okay, I just want to be back to break even. I just want to be back to break even. I promise, and you tell yourself, I promise once I get back to zero, I'm going to be fine. I'm going to close it.
Then you get
never
there
goes
and you're
that
like,
way.
Go a little further,
Yeah.
Never stick to it.
It's having that piece that obviously comes with time and reps, but having that awareness to say, once I identify these things, whether it's price exceeding your profit target, even if you have a green day, like if you left a lot of money on the table, that can tilt a lot of people. For me, that does upset me, but it doesn't tilt me enough to get back into the trade. I'll think, and I message you sometimes, actually. I'm like, oh my God, I left so much money on the table. But that's not enough to get me to get back into the trade. Because
sometimes that's all you need. Sometimes you just need to go vent.
Just
go vent to somebody. Have a trader buddy that you hit up and, dude, I fumbled the bag so hard on this trade.
Yeah.
But by doing that, you're like, okay, well, I'm releasing some of the frustration.
Yeah.
But I'm not taking action on it, right?
Exactly.
And I think that's a big key that a lot of people miss.
Yeah.
And another piece that you were saying there, just it's not that everyone is different, and it's not that like once you get control of that emotion, whether it is walking away, because it's not something that goes away, because it's not something I can say, hey, I've conquered it, I don't feel that anymore.
Yeah.
No, and I don't have to take the batteries out of my mouse anymore, thankfully, but I still battle those same emotions. I've just figured out better ways. And see, I'm a very math-brained, analytical person. So for example, I hate going to casinos. I do not want to go to a casino because I just know my brain immediately thinks about odds and thinks about math. And it's like, this thing is rigged against me. you don't win. Like the
Yeah.
house always wins. Now maybe one person wins if you're lucky, blah blah blah. I get that in a short term, but I I just know if something's rigged against me, I don't want to play that game.
Yeah.
Right? Like
100%.
it's rigged against me. I don't want to play that game
Yeah.
because I can't put any odds or anything in my favor. And so my brain starts going that way. So for me, when I get control of the emotions a little bit,
Yeah.
and now it's like I still fight these emotions, but I know I can fight them within my head. I can say, okay, you if you chase this entry, like Andre was talking about a while ago, if you chase this entry right now, your risk reward is absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
Is that something that you really want to do? If you were going to take an entry down here and the thing's already run 30 points, well, now what? You take the entry here and the market gives you a second chance at your level, and now you're 30 points in drawdown,
Yep.
and it stops you out just to end up working. That's one of the most frustrating things I've ever been
Oh,
a part of, is a
it's
trade
the
like that.
worst.
And so I just don't chase entries anymore.
Yeah.
If I miss it, I miss it, and I sit back and watch it for 2 3 hours, and I just get comfortable missing out, going, hey, the analysis was close, didn't work out.
Yeah.
I'm good. I'll wait. I'm sitting in the batter's box. I'll just wait for the next pitch. Right.
Yeah.
I'll wait for a
100%.
fastball. I'm not gonna reach for this nasty curveball outside.
Yeah, and the way that I could not agree with you more about having the odds rigged against me, and that's something, to be honest, I really hate when people say that trading is gambling, because we actually have so much data on the fact that these setups actually work. And the one thing for me, at least, I believe that people typically have they have their foundations in terms of the sequence of their foundation around trading backwards. For me, I think that when you have the data piece where you have the confidence in your strategy, it is so much easier to actually reduce the emotional side to it. Like, and what I mean by that is, if I know that the IB will typically break one side, like price will only break one side of the IB, then that means that if I'm in drawdown, I'm okay, because I know that 80 something percent of the time it's not going to go to the other side. So if I am in drawdown, I'm okay with that because I have something to back what I'm saying, and it's not someone's opinion, and it's not someone's like some YouTube video that I saw. So this is my belief, is that the foundation starts with the data, and then the emotional piece gets layered on top of that. Because, like you said, you can play. If you go to a casino, you can play blackjack by the book. By the book. You stand when you stand. You double when you double. You split when you split. By the book. But you know that if you do that, you're going to lose over time. It's the best odds, but you're going to lose. Whereas in trading, if you stick to your plan and it's a profitable plan, you're going to make money. And that's where I believe that you need the data foundation first, and then you layer the emotional piece on top of it. And I'd love to know, because I obviously use edgeful all the time. I'd love to know, how did that impact your trading when you started to use edgeful, and the emotional piece as well?
Yeah. So I wish I would have found it. Sorry if there's any background stuff. My
No,
kids are
I'm
on
hearing
the
you.
way through. Okay. You never know how good technology is these days, right? Noise isolation stuff.
Yep.
Um, no, so I wish I would have gone the other direction. I wish I would have found data first, like you were saying, and built it
Yeah.
that way. Because I am such a math and analytical brained person, because that would have saved me a lot of time, for one, and a lot of heartache, a lot of all that stuff. Because having the data and stuff, you made a point here. Having something in your favor where you know that the odds are favorable to you to have success, I think
Yeah.
that's a huge piece of it, right? And so for the longest time, I kind of went backwards. I was like, okay, I'm learning some basic TA and stuff, and then I was like, okay, the emotions are my problem, and so I started getting that under control. But I still was like keeping my head above water on consistency, and I was like,
Yeah.
what am I missing here? Like, why am I? I figured out how to find winning trades for the most part, and I figured out how to control myself from not chasing and not making bad mistakes. So where's the next step? Where can I take this to the next level? Because I was kind of plateauing, and it was getting really frustrating, because I could get to the point where I was like, okay, making some money, maybe take payout here, okay, and then, oh, okay, now I'm on a bad streak, or what's going on here? And then I got introduced to edgeful, right? And this is where for me, a couple big things changed. So one of these things, I'll mention this one first, is just expectations. So I had a big problem with taking trades, and I would know, okay, my levels are working out great. My analysis is working out really good for an entry. I'm executing pretty well in this entry, but where am I taking this trade? What kind of, am I going for this level? Am I going for this level? How much should I trim along the way? Am I locking in profit? And I can tell you how many good trades that I let come back and be zero or small losses,
Yeah.
because I wasn't trimming, and I wasn't really. I mean, I would try to trim a little bit, but I was swinging for the wrong places, if that makes sense. And so I was like, okay, I need something. I need some kind of edge in this market. Go figure how that works out, right? That was kind of the thing I think I was missing, right? I had a great foundation build. I had a ton of screen time that I'd put in learning different strategies and stuff, and then obviously the risk management as far as like emotional side of things. But what I really was missing, I didn't really have a good edge, and couldn't figure out why certain trades would work and certain trades wouldn't work. And then I come across you guys, and I start looking at this stuff, and I say, okay, there's a couple things here I can look at. Which direction am I trading? What type of trade am I in? And what are the probabilities that this trade goes to this level or this level or this level, right?
Yeah.
And so to me, it was like, well, hey, maybe I should base my trimming and my scaling and set my profit targets based on the probabilities that we actually get there.
Yeah.
A quick example that comes to mind is when we break the initial balance, for example. So edgeful has an initial balance report that shows us one side or the other is going to break like 98% of the time right now. Once that one side breaks, there's an 80% chance plus that we're only going to break that side for the day.
Yeah.
So here I am playing reversals, and okay, price looks like it's rejecting. It looks like it's rolling over. Here I am swinging for a reversal to low of day, when I can look at edgeful and look at the data and say there's a 17% chance that we even get down there. Why am I trading for 17% opportunities? Why am I not trading for 60%, 70% opportunities? That was a big clicking moment for me that took me from, okay, I'm keeping my head above water trading. I'm making a little bit of money, but I keep two steps forward, basically two steps back, not even one step back, just two steps forward, two steps back was basically what I was doing. And I was plateauing. And then I found you guys, and I started working the data into how I trade and going, okay, am I trading in the right direction? And am I setting profit targets that make sense? Let's say I take a trade and I'm wanting to trim 3 times, right? So I have price target 1, price target 2, and then ultimate price target, right? If I take that and I get to that first level and okay, well, hey, it's here. I could take some profit. Maybe I'll just try to stop up or something and try to get it to that next target. Okay, well, I trim a little bit here, and the next thing you know, the trade's coming back against me. So I start looking at the data, and I'm going, okay, well, this first target, just based on the direction or based on retracements, whatever, there's a bunch of ways to look at this, right? And you can form a lot of it into a strategy. But what was happening was that first price target was hitting, and I maybe taking a little small trim, or I was like, okay, trade's in my way, I'm just gonna go break even stop, just for it to come back and not lock in any profit. So I'm not capturing any profit, even though I was initially right on my trade. So then I'm working the risk management and the probabilities into the same system. I'm saying, okay, I need to be trimming a third of my position out as soon as it goes in my favor, locking in some profit. And then as we get here, I need to be out at least half or 2/3 of my trade. And then if it wants to keep going, it keeps going. And so that mentality, coupled with, hey, 75% of the time you're going to make it back to this point on a retracement, 20% of the time you're going to make it to this next point. So am I connecting the dots there, Andre? Because that's
100%.
kind of the visual I'm trying to print is if I'm taking a trade and I know based on historical data that there's a 70% chance we go to here, but there's only a 20% chance we go to here. I need to be out of like 70% of my position here, right?
Correct.
Like I don't need to be swinging for that. So that was kind of a clicking move forward moment for me.
And before you started to use edgeful, were you leaving your position to just run to that 20% area because you just didn't know, and that might have been one of the levels that you had from the other day?
Yeah, essentially, yes. So like I would say, okay, well, maybe I could take some off here, but here's where I want here's where I want price to go back to, right?
Yeah.
And this would be a great trade. This will help me pass this challenge account, or hey, this will get me to a payout point, whatever it is, or this will do a big day. Hey, this is a big day. This is a good
Yeah.
trade. The problem was I was just looking for things to happen, and sometimes they would, sometimes they wouldn't.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key of like, okay, but just yesterday I took the same trade and it ran 100 points. Now I'm taking the same trade today, and why is it only, it only went 30, 40 points and it reversed back in my face. And I made no money,
Yeah.
or I hit a stop loss because I
Yeah.
didn't move up my, and I was able to, like I said, with that, if you think about that, okay, well, the entries are good and I'm managing it. So I'm not really like losing a lot of money, but I'm not able to capture
Yeah.
all the profit that's sitting on the table for me. And I would get frustrated. But then with edgeful, so a lot of these things, um, we break a previous day's low, for
Yeah.
example. Okay, before I even thought about that, to me, I'm looking, okay, previous day's low is broken. So I'm like looking at that for it to reject, and I see it come back over previous day's low. Okay, we've reclaimed a little bit. And a lot of strategies say, well, yeah, you reclaimed previous day's low, you go, it's a reclaim. And so I'm like, okay, yeah, well, let's go back to high of day. Let's go back. Why not? Let's go back to high of day. It worked, it's worked before, whatever. Then I can actually look at real data and
Yeah.
say my probability of a red or a green close
Yeah.
today, just getting back to the previous day's close or closing above that point, is so poor. Why would I hold any of my position that far?
Yeah.
And that was like a boom, like, okay, what, hold on. Now I'm able to capture so I had before I had the trade right, but it wasn't going where I wanted it to go, and I could not understand why.
Yeah.
And now I can look at this and go, okay, 70% of the time is not going to go over this level and
Yeah.
close up here. I'm out and I'm locking
Yep.
in profit. Now I have money in my pocket, and maybe I leave a runner or two, very small, like a
Yeah.
10% or less portion of my position
Yeah.
to maybe if it keeps going. But the thing is, I don't want 30% opportunities. I want 70% opportunities.
Correct.
I don't want to shoot for those small, like, hey, and we're talking, big data here, right? We're talking months.
Yeah.
Like I look at the 6 months, the most, because I kind
Yeah.
of, that's current market conditions in my plan. But
Yeah.
I'm looking at that and I'm going, this is wild, right? This is, if I want to make money consistently, I don't need to trade against something that's going to happen 80% of the time. And if I am, I need to know that. So
Yeah.
like if I am playing a reversal, I need to know this is a counter trend trade. We've taken out these kind of levels. This is only going to happen one or two out of 10 times.
Yep.
No thanks.
Yep.
No
Exactly.
thanks. And that was the big difference from learning strategies of trading and then putting actual data and statistics and probabilities with them. And once I connected those dots,
Yeah.
well, my track record has been much better. We'll put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure. And I just have a couple more questions. And one of them is, how many reports do you actually use on a day-to-day basis? Not every single day, but do you use 50 reports or do you use like a handful of them? And if you can just touch on which ones you do use.
Yeah, no, I think what's great is there are so many options, and there's so many options that have been created by other traders
Yeah.
and suggested by other traders. So the few that I just lean on no matter what, there's a few that I have like two categories here.
Yeah.
So first, I have my go-tos that I watch like every single day. I'm watching previous day's range and
Yeah.
gap fill strongly at the open. Previous day's range and gap fill, because I found very strong stats in there, like very, very favorable stats there. I like to look at the IB. That's one of my favorite ones, and then the opening candle continuation. So that first hour of the market, where whatever direction it is, red or green, has a huge impact on the rest of the day and how you close. The initial balance. Once you break one side of that, it has a huge impact on what can happen the rest of the day. Anything that sticks out to me like that, I keep those on the ready, right? And I look at them almost every single day. I mean, obviously statistics change as things happen in the market.
Yeah.
But I can almost fireball off what the statistics are
Yeah.
when those 3 to 4 things that I just discussed
Yeah.
happen. And then there's a few others that are situational based that I do like to lean on. So there's a few things like if I see a huge trend, the consecutive candle report, I
Yeah.
think is what it's called, consecutive
Average
bars or
consecutive
something.
bars. Yeah.
That one, yeah. So when I see on a 5 or 15-minute chart that we're running 9 bars hot in a row,
Yeah.
like, okay, here's a chance to either get out of a trade or maybe I can just take a quick scalp trade down because I
Yeah.
know we're overextended. We're at double the average. We're almost the max, whatever it is. So that's one I kind of keep on the side burner. That's situational based.
Yeah.
And then the outside days report, where if we open above or below the previous day's range,
Yeah.
I'm immediately that's a trigger for me. That one we don't get that one all the time,
Yeah.
but when we do, I love those statistics around that. And I love saying, okay, hey, here's just recognition from doing this, from repetition, recognition from repetition. I like that. I'm
Yeah.
gonna use that in a tweet
Yeah.
at some point. I like that. That one just fresh off the top of the dome right there. Recognition from repetition. So from doing it all the time, I immediately recognize and see, hey, we're opening up above previous day's range.
Yeah.
We should probably come back in touch, right? And
Yeah.
there's a statistic for that. So those are my favorite reports. Those are my, like, the ones I listed first, the ones every single day that I have up on the in a tab on my screen that I'm
Yeah.
checking, and then those situational ones too. And then every once in a while I just go surfing. Just
Yeah.
what else can I find out there? I want every edge possible. I
Yeah.
don't want to just trade off of one report either. And I think some new users of Edgeful may do that. They may get excited and say, "Well, I'm a big gap fill trader.
Yeah.
Let me just look at the gap fill report." Okay, you could do that,
Yeah.
but what if you have the gap fill already played out and out of the way? Or what if you have, hey, the gap fill says that this should happen, but I've got 3 other reports that are all telling me this,
Yeah.
right? If 3 things are telling me this, honestly, I get more comfortable with drawdown. I'm like, okay, I just need to get long somewhere because I've
Yeah.
got 3 or 4 things telling me that we're going to go close up here in a strong percentage basis. I get more comfortable. Okay, I'll size down a little bit. I can add more later, but I can give this trade way more room because I'm comfortable knowing. And if it doesn't work out, I mean, risk management, right?
Fine.
If it
Yeah.
doesn't work out, if something happens 70, 80% of the time, Andre, I'm going to take that trade 10 times and it's
Yeah.
going to work out 7 to 8 times. That's
100%.
good enough for me. I can handle 3 losses especially if I know I'm going to get 7 to 8 wins.
Yeah. 100%. And so you mentioned that you are using a handful of reports, not one, not two, but you have this kind of like this toolkit that you've built. Now we have the what's in play section, which I know you're a fan of, but I'm curious, do you have that up? Do you personalize it? Like, is that something that you leave up on your screens, or is it something that you kind of identify on your charts and then you look at the what's in play? Like, how do you integrate the what's in play, like that live data piece, into your trading?
So I think all of us traders, we have a routine in the morning, right? When we start
Yeah.
our day.
Of course.
Here's my routine. I'll go through the quick part. I
Perfect.
have multiple monitors and stuff. I've built that over time. I didn't start out with 3 monitors that are ginormous.
Yeah.
I've built that up. That's why none of them match. I don't have the same brand. I have I have a Samsung, I have an LG, and then I have a different LG that's flat and completely
Yeah.
different size. I've built it up. I was using 2 laptops. Now, I just old laptops from work that I
Yeah.
just made happen for me, right? But now I have enough screen real estate. But my morning, so every morning I pull up 3 trading view tabs. So I have one that's on a daily. I have one that's set up for 15 minutes and it has all edgeful indicators on it. And then I have one that's got more of my EMAs and my VWAP that I keep on a 5-minute chart on NQ. And so I pull up those 3 things in a tab. Then I pull up edgeful. This is my 4th, so step number 2, step 1 is trading view. Step 2 is edgeful. And then I pull up an economic calendar and then I
Yeah.
pull up an earnings calendar. So that's my start every morning. And then I open up a new squawker, I open up Discord, I open up X and my trading platform. So I
Yeah.
have that same, and I go through the same process every single morning. And that's the exact order that I do it in. Edgeful is literally number 2.
Yeah.
Especially if I ever get a late start, if I come down here, I'm making coffee and we're getting close to market open. I, I need edge full open because the gap fill happens quick sometimes.
Yeah.
So I
That's
need
for
to take a
sure.
look at it before the market opens. But yeah, so you mentioned what's in play. So that tab with edge full
Yeah.
stays open all day. Now I can separate that out because I have the screen real estate. So
Yeah.
sometimes I have a couple charts side by side. Sometimes I just need one chart, and then I'm pulling up other information side by side with it. And Edgeful is one of the ones I pull out, and I'll have it out, especially when we're kind of in that heat of the moment, that first little bit of time, or when we get close to that 1 hour mark. If you listen to those reports, anybody that's watching this, the IB report and the
Yeah.
opening candle continuation, both those reports, that data is live 1 hour into the market. Where do you think Edgeful is on my screen at 59 minutes into the market? It is waiting right there
Yeah.
for that data because that's a crucial piece of data for how the rest of the day is going to go.
Yeah.
And so I need to know that as soon as possible. So as soon as that's up, boom, I'm here and I'm starting to compare stuff and I'm starting to game plan for the rest of the day.
Yeah. It's one of the pieces that you mentioned that I really love is having that routine of you open your broker, you open your charts. Obviously, that should be number one. And then the other pieces where you open up Edgeful, you have it on, you have your little section for it, you have your economic calendar, you have these other things. And that routine, at least for me, is where I have a similar routine. I open up my screens, I open up Edgeful, I check what's going on. I always check the gap fill no matter what.
Yeah.
Because it's like near and dear to my heart. But having that routine, especially for any new traders, is so important because it's a checklist. And if you don't check the economic calendar and you're in a trade and 10 p.m. comes around and there's data that just dumps the market, you're going to have a pretty big problem. If you don't know that it's FOMC and you're like, wow, price is extremely choppy today, what's going on? And then you're in a trade, you're getting chopped up, you're losing money because there's no momentum because everyone's waiting until 2 p.m. You need to know that. You should trade differently, or maybe you should stay out of the trade on that day. So having this routine, having that checklist, I feel like for traders is so crucial. And I mean, obviously, even based on your progress and your success with trading, having that data piece will change the way that you view the markets. And that's what it's done for me. I'm also very analytical. You know that my background is in finance and accounting. I used to work at Goldman Sachs, and when I came into trading, I was doing all the analysis myself in Excel. And Excel doesn't work for this type of stuff. And now that I have Edgeful, I personally I built this company for me.
To use yourself.
I built this company for me. Literally, this is not some product that I don't know anything about I don't know anything about the industry. I'm just trying to capitalize on some market. This product was literally built for me. I used to go and buy raw price data in a TXT file because you couldn't even put it in a CSV file. It was in a TXT file where I had to go extract all the data, reformat all of it, put it into Excel, and it was so expensive. It was to buy it. It was like $60 a month just for me to update the new pieces of data, which was crazy. It was unbelievable to do that just to see how is the new month doing, how is the next 2 months doing. So this is literally, and then I would have to do that on every ticker I wanted to buy. I couldn't buy the raw data on X amount of tickers. I had to buy it for Tesla, for SPY, for QQQ, on all of them individually. So it was honestly pretty expensive, even thinking back now. But this whole platform was built for me as a trader. And then now, obviously, there are a ton of people that really love it. And I love the way that you speak about it a lot on how it's impacted your trading and how you stream all the time, obviously. And the people that reach out to you to tell you how you in your trading personally and your introduction of Edgeful to them has changed their trading and their lives.
Yeah, so that's one of the coolest pieces, right? So, I mean, obviously for me as a trader,
Yeah.
finding that consistent profitability and that stuff, I mean, that obviously that was a huge goal of mine,
Yeah.
right? That was a very big thing that I was looking for, and finally achieved it, right, and have been able to achieve really good things. And a lot of it is attributed to edgeful. I mean, Andre, I've told you privately that I'm very, very thankful you've built this product, because it literally, from that plateau I talked about earlier, it took me to the next spot.
Yeah.
But the other really cool thing is the messages that I get from people that are
Yeah.
like, "Hey, thanks for mentioning edgeful to me," or "Thanks for, dude, I did not understand it." And I get a lot of stuff like, "Why are you looking for low of day? Like, I'm seeing I see a hanging, or a morning star reversal, or I
Yeah.
see, it looks like a bull flag, or and all these chart patterns, or but it's back over the 200 EMA," and I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, that's cool. Like, I'm not discounting those things, but
Yeah.
let me tell you this. Actually, I can tell you there's a 72% chance that we're going to go down here and close below this level,
Yeah.
or a 81% chance that we're going to close above this level today.
Yeah.
If I'm wrong 20% of the time, I don't care. Here's why. And there, but I see that, oh, okay. Well, how did you get? And I'm like, because go back over the last 6 months, every time this has happened this many times.
Yeah.
And I can quantify it for people, and they're like, wow, that makes great sense. And
Yeah.
then I get the follow-up messages. Hey, I tried this out. Dude, I just passed my first combine. I've been
Yeah.
trying for 6 months. Hey, I just got a funded account. I've been trying to do this, dude. I've had a few people, like, and I won't share any of their personal messages
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
but I've had a few people say, my family's life has changed here. You've made a difference in my kids' lives. That
Yeah.
stuff, boy, that hits me as a father. That hits
Yeah.
me knowing, like, hey, somebody actually was able to change the outlook or course of maybe their life, or their children.
Yeah.
That to me is powerful. So the
100%.
responses are super, super cool too.
Yeah. And I think that is a beautiful way to end this conversation. Honestly, it does warm my heart as well. I think it's unbelievable to get those messages. You never think about it, like, from my end, like, I never thought about it really to that extent of, like, you've changed, like, the course of my family. Like, now I could pay for whatever, all these other things, not to get into the details, but it is truly incredible once you learn this skill, and once you apply the data, and once you have the emotional piece, like that discipline to stick to the plans and to not screw around with what the data is telling you. You really, it really can have a massive, massive difference. Like, it could really change your life, and not to be extreme, or not to kind of like blow things out of proportion, but it really can change your life. So
No, I don't think it's extreme to say at all, because I can sit here and just say, for me personally,
yeah.
anyone that has followed me and seen my journey, it has literally changed my life.
Yeah.
And I can go back in time and show you a point where my trading consistently absolutely changed, where the amount of payouts that I was able to take started flying through the roof.
Yeah.
And it changed my life. So
Yeah.
whether you hear the other stuff or not, it's that, hey, let me tell you, from my perspective, it has changed my life. It's changed my trading, and really taking me to which just recently, I know, Andre, you've seen this, was called up as a live trader over
Yep.
at Top Step.
Yep.
And I cannot credit anything more than, I mean, edgeful is probably as big of a piece of that success of anything, because it was the missing piece that I needed as a trader. Once I learned how to trade, learned some TA, and then I've, on the other side, learn to kind of control the emotions and
Yeah.
stuff. Then okay, where's the connector piece here? That's what edgeful became for me. That's what it all took off for me.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, it honestly, like, it gives me goosebumps, like, even listening to you say that. Like, I know we talk about it we talk all the time, but, like, it does give me goosebumps, like, just listening to you say that. But it's been an absolute pleasure. We always have the best conversations, but if you want to tell everyone where to find you, like your X handle, let them know.
Yeah, so it's imp. So the first part, if you see my name on the screen here, EMP Maximiliano on Twitter. You can find my YouTube channel. I try to do some educational content over
Yeah.
there, but X is where I live. That's where I do all the spaces and stuff as well.
Yeah.
So live trade over there pretty much all day, every day, all kinds of conversations and stuff. So you
Perfect.
can definitely find me there. And of course, you can always find me on different Edgeful streams as well.
Yeah.
So a couple times a week, you can find me right here on the Edgeful channel too.
Perfect. Perfect. All right, man. I appreciate your time. It's been a pleasure. Have a good one.